What if I told you that you could use your imagination to overcome your anger? Because you can. So I am telling you that. And in today's video, I want to share with you a technique that you can use if you're struggling with anger to overcome the most common anger response triggers that you have in your life. So if you don't already know what those are, maybe take a pause on this video and write down the top 2 or 3 things that happen on a regular basis that cause you to get angry. And then come back and I'll still be here and we'll talk about how to use your imagination to overcome those triggers. Are you ready? Okay, so here we go. When I was first faced with the reality that I needed to deal with the anger habit in my life, I found myself, just hands in the air, like, how do you do this? Anger is a habit. I am habitually angry, and I have certain things that trigger me, or that trigger that anger response. And I needed to know how in the world I was supposed to overcome that anger. Well, I've said this before in other videos, and it's something that I believe wholeheartedly. Anger is, at least in part, and I think in large part, a learned behavior. It becomes habitual. Anger is an emotion, and like any emotion, we can develop a habit. People talk about developing an attitude of gratitude. What they mean is developing the habit of responding in gratitude to the things around you. People can become habitually selfish, they can become habitually grateful, they can become habitually happy, they can become habitually sad, they can become habitually angry. And an angry person gets into a rut, and then they develop triggers. Some of us have multiple triggers for our anger. With some of you, maybe it's just one thing, but it's that one thing that no matter what, as you're trying to overcome your anger, it's like no matter what you do, it feels like every time this happens, you get angry. In fact, if you stopped right now to think about the last time that trigger happened in your life, and you allowed yourself to replay that situation, you'll probably start to feel angry again. Or you'll be discouraged because you got angry. And this is that cycle. The trigger happens, your anger responds, or you respond in anger, and then you respond in self-condemnation because you didn't want to get angry, but you did, and so you feel like a failure. And then that reinforces that mindset that no matter what you do, you're always going to be angry. It doesn't have to be like that. So here I was with my hands in the air saying, how in the world am I supposed to respond differently when things happen that make me angry? First of all, most things don't make us angry. We choose to get angry. And then when it becomes habitual, we're not even making a conscious choice. It's something I've talked about in other videos. We now no longer have a rule over our own spirit and our own emotions. And so we're just like a broken down city. Just anybody can come in, trample all over us, and we have no control. We want to get that control back. So how does this relate to the title of this video? To using your imagination. Okay, here's what I want you to do. And I promise you you're going to feel silly and you're not going to think it's going to work, but if you will do this, I promise it will work. You will see improvement with this technique. I want you to take, of that list of 1, 2, or 3 of the top triggers that you have, the things that always happen or happen on a regular basis, like either daily or weekly or every other day, multiple times a week. This needs to be a consistent, regular trigger about which you get angry. Take just one of those things and sit down, take between 3 to 5 minutes, and sit down and imagine that event happening. If it helps, imagine the last time that it happened. But I think it'd be good to imagine the next time that it happens. One is remembering, one is imagining. So create this like a daydream in your mind. create this event and play it over in your mind. So you get the characters. Maybe it's somebody cutting you off in traffic, and every time someone cuts you off in traffic, you just lose your temper, like you lose control way beyond proportion. So you're going to imagine the next time someone cuts you off in traffic. Let's take that example. You close your eyes and you'll imagine you're sitting at a stoplight or at a four-way stop, and it's your turn to go, and someone else just rushes through, and it was your turn, and they didn't follow the rules, and you're just gonna, you can see yourself blowing up and losing control, maybe flipping them off, certainly yelling at them, and making everybody in the vehicle with you irritated, because you always get angry when these kinds of things happen. Now, once you have that scenario firmly in your mind, every detail playing out clearly in your mind, here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about how you normally respond and allow yourself in your imagination and in this imaginary scenario, I want you to imagine yourself responding the way you normally do. That shouldn't be hard. Then I want you to go back and I want you to imagine that you respond the way you wish you had responded. Okay. Imagine that you had responded the way you wish that you had responded. The mind is an incredibly powerful thing. And if you do this, you might even feel some of the emotions inside of you. And you might even feel really conflicted and like there's a lot of tension when you try to imagine yourself responding in this way. But just imagine it and allow yourself to replay this scenario at least 10 times in your mind with you responding. How do you imagine that you would feel if you responded the way you wish you had? How would your words be different? How would your actions be different? Let yourself feel that. You may even feel a physiological response as you do that. Your heart might be beating faster. You may feel a flush of blood to your face as you're tempted to get angry. Don't worry about this being perfect, especially the first time you try it. Imagine yourself responding to that common scenario the way you wish you had. Once you've done that, between 5 and 10 times, stop. Go on about your day. The next day, do it again. Do it again every day. At least once a day, set aside 5 to 10 minutes to sit down, think about that trigger, use your imaginary scenario. If you get bored with that imaginary scenario, create another one. Change the color of the car, change the traffic interaction, but that same trigger. And I want you to imagine how you would respond if you had responded the way you wish you had. From the words you would say, to the way you would feel, to the way you would act. And imagine it 5 to 10 times, and then go on about your day. If you do this enough times and visualize and imagine yourself responding in that way, at some point, and it doesn't take long, the more ingrained the habit, the longer it takes to change it, but you should start seeing progress where you're going to maybe get cut off in traffic and you're still going to get angry, but there's going to be a part of your brain that's going to realize, I could have chosen something different here. So that's progress. Don't get upset by that. So it's not working because I imagined it and then I still got mad. Okay, don't get mad about that. Don't condemn yourself here. Just realize habits take time to relearn. And since every time this trigger happens in reality, you get angry, we're creating an imaginary scenario like the one. It needs to be like the one you would face in real life. And you need to be able to imagine yourself responding the way you wish you had responded. And I promise you, at some point, it's going to happen. You're going to get cut off in traffic. And you're not going to respond in anger the way you normally do. Maybe it'll just be a diminished response, but it will be a different response. And you're going to see that change. And as you do that physically, and as that begins to take root, a new habit is being formed. It takes being intentional. It takes practice. You've been practicing being angry for a long time. Don't think you're just going to say a prayer or snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're not going to be angry anymore. The best place to practice not getting angry is in your imagination. In the Bible, Solomon, one of the wisest men according to the Bible, who ever lived in his time, said that out of your heart flows every issue of life. Jesus said that every emotion, good and bad, that comes out of a man and every action flows from the heart. This is a word for our imagination and our thoughts. You don't have to be a Christian to put that into practice, but it's a truism. And people have said it outside of Scripture as well. We understand that what's on the inside comes out. So we're building a reserve of good actions, visualizing how we would respond if we responded the way we wish we had responded. I'd like to know if you try that. I would love to hear any questions you have on that, because when I put this into practice in my life, it changed my life over time. It wasn't the only thing I did to break the anger habit, but it was one of the most powerful things that I did, was to recognize the trigger and imagine myself responding the way I wish I had responded, until one day I began responding the way I had imagined myself responding, and a new habit was being formed. You don't have to stay in bondage to anger for the rest of your life. You can get victory over this. Some of it's just habit formation. And I would love to help you if I can. Hey, if you're enjoying these videos, would you click subscribe? Would you share them with a friend? I'm trying to build a channel here where I can help people. My heart is to help especially younger adults, those in the high school to young adult years. But if you're over 40, if you're 50, if you're 60, I hope you'll find some value in these videos, and everyone in between. But thanks so much for taking time to listen, and I would love to hear your thoughts and your experience by putting into practice the content of this video. Have a great day. See you next time around.